Hello, hope you're doing well today. Most of my videos, kind of to be honest, my target is ministers because that's kind of my job as a bishop for a state or a region to administrate that region. I'm working with ministers, but I'm also, and technically, really, I'm working for churches, and I'm trying to connect. One of the main things I do is try to connect churches and pastors, help churches get a good pastor, and or train and equip ministers or potential ministers and help them to grow so that they'll be better pastors and associate pastors for the churches they serve. And so, but today I want to talk in particular to the good church members that I work for. And here's what's brought this to my mind. I'm always working with churches and I'm always working with pastors. And lately I've had several conversations with pastors that are leaving or contemplating leaving their churches. Some in the state that I currently serve, and some outside the state, places that I have served or places that I've ministered as a pastor myself. And here's the reason, the number one reason, when you cut through it all, the number one reason that these guys are seriously considering leaving or are leaving is that it gets down to they don't feel appreciated. They feel taken for granted. And you think, well, I thought God called them. Why? That's not a good reason to leave a church. But it happens. It happens a lot. And it's biblical. God sends ministers to a church, but he gives them clear reasons to leave. And in Matthew, Mark, and Luke talk about this as well. But when Jesus sent his disciples into communities, into cities, and remember that God doesn't just send your pastor to your church, to you and to your church. He sends a pastor to a community. You, as good church members, that church is there to not only serve you and your family, but really you and your family in the context of that church are there to be a lighthouse in that community that you serve. And so when God sent his disciples, when God sends his ministers, he said, if they receive you, if they honor you, if they greet you, and they're worthy of you, is how he put it. He says, and when you go into a household, greet it. If the household is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But then he goes on to say, if it's not worthy of you, then depart. And when you depart, shake the dust off your feet. And so, in other words, if you go there and they don't honor you, because when they don't honor you, they're not honoring your message. And more importantly, they're not honoring the one whose message you're giving. They're not honoring me. And so our ministers represent Jesus Christ. And when we take them for granted, we're taking Jesus for granted. We're taking his gospel, the word, for granted. And it breaks my heart because most church members are not bad, mean, evil, wicked people. That's definitely not true for the people that I've served, the churches that I've worked with. You're good people, but we can easily take God's man or God's woman, that family, we can take them for granted. And when pastors feel unappreciated, it's like they're not getting the soul food that they need. And they can go a long time, but eventually that grows so weary that they get demoralized and they leave. And I want to remind you, good church people, there's so many churches that can't get pastors. There's churches closing down, not just in my denomination or our denomination, but this is a phenomenon all over the country. Churches are closing down because they can't get a pastor. You've got churches that are having to share pastors, and you've got a guy that just goes around and tries to give a little bit to a lot of different churches just so they can struggle to keep their doors open. I know a couple of situations right now. One church that it's like a generational move of God. They have quadrupled or more. It's been unbelievable growth, unbelievable progress. But that pastor is seriously considering leaving. He's been there for a number of years. He's never once gotten a pay raise. And you say, well, it's not about the money. It's about the money for you, isn't it, when you go to work? And they want to have a retirement. They want to feed their family. And then more importantly, money is one of the ways, the key ways that we express value. And so when you don't have that conversation, and he's never received a pay raise, it's not even brought up, people take him for granted, it's just, it's blasé. And I could give you story after story after story. And I want to remind you, good church people, your pastor represents Jesus Christ. And when he doesn't feel appreciated, or when she doesn't feel appreciated, when they're not honored, then you are shortening their tenure. And I know there's no perfect pastor, and sometimes pastors need to leave. It's not a good fit. But often pastors leave because they're not honored, they're not valued, and instinctively they may not even be aware of it, but that church is not worthy of them, and they leave. And many times they shake the dust off their feet. I don't want that to be you as a church. I don't want that to be you as a church member. And so I want you to be a church that ministers. I get calls instead of the members calling me or pastors calling me to resign. I want you to be that church that people want to go to. And so be sensitive to this, and remember that your pastor is your greatest asset. You can have a beautiful building. You can have a debt-free building. You can be comfortable. But when you have the wrong pastor or don't have a pastor, that church will go down to zero or go down to small, struggling pretty quick. And so remember this. So how do you honor your pastor? You honor the position. You treat him with respect, or her with respect. You give honest compliments, not just honest feedback. Give honest compliments. Be intentional. Just like in a marriage, we are instructed we need to tell our spouse we love them. Well, be intentional about expressing gratitude to your pastor. Make sure they get paid well. Remember, just like in our national or regional or local elections, you have voted in every one of them, whether you go or not. To not go vote is a vote. And so get behind your pastor. Support their events. If you're not out of town for a good reason or homesick for a good reason, be at church. Be there. Vote for your church. Vote for your pastor. Support them financially. Get behind their vision. Be sure to honor your pastor, because there's a lot of guys and gals out there right now that are running on fumes. And honestly, their church is not worthy of them. They are such precious saints of God, men and women that love God, that sacrifice, that gave up good careers, that travel long distances, that say goodbye to their children, to their parents, to come and serve you, to live in a community that's not their community, and serve people that are not their people, but they become yours, and honor them. And I know they have imperfections. Consider that the cost of doing business. It just comes with the territory. In any kind of business, any kind of trade, there's things you have to deal with. It's the cost of doing business. The cost of doing business, of having a pastor, is that you take care of them. You take the initiative, you find a place for them to stay, that they're new to that area. You make sure that they have just at least as good as you've got. If you need it, they need it. If you enjoy it, they enjoy it. And when you honor them, you're honoring the Lord. When you heed their message, when you value their message, you're valuing the one you confess to be your Lord and Savior. So, dear brothers and sisters, the greatest thing you've got going for you is a pastor that loves you. Sure, he's imperfect. Sure, she's not maybe the one you were hoping for, but they were sent by God. They're called by God. Value them, treasure them, and together you can make a difference in the world and in your community in particular. So in my next video, pastors, I'm going to talk to you on how to deal with being in a situation where you're undervalued or not valued at all. So we'll talk about that in the next video. Well, God bless you all. We'll talk to you later.